Hey all, now that we've learned about z-scores, the number of standard deviations above the mean, let's do some examples where we actually calculate and interpret the z-score of a raw score. Suppose that we're looking at the player wOBA distribution in 2016. It's roughly normal, approximately normal. Mean is 287, standard deviation is 0.30. Okay. Remember that the z-score for a raw score, in this case 370, is going to be 370 minus 287, right, the mean, divided by the standard deviation. Okay, I think that's going to be 0.083 minus 0.030. You can do this all on a calculator, but just to show you sort of where our numbers are coming from, if I do this out of my calculator, going to get 83 divided by 30 is going to be, say, approximately 2.77, right? Round off to the nearest hundredth. That's very good. That's a very good wOBA score, right? Almost 3 standard deviations above the mean. Very, very good. Now let's take a look at what happens here. We've got a player with wOBA 200. Now you might notice that that's less than average. Significantly less than average. But how significantly? Well, let's find out using z-scores. Right, and I can tell you this is going to be negative 2.9. Negative 2.9. That means 2.9 standard deviations below the mean. Right? Very bad, right? To get a wOBA that low, that's a career year in a bad sense, or maybe you're just a really bad player, right? Now, find an interval of wOBAs that contains roughly 68% of players. That shouldn't be too bad. We know that roughly 68% of players of player wOBAs, I should say, are within 1 standard deviation of the mean. Okay? So the interval is going to be what? Well, it's going to be 287 minus 0.30, 287 plus 0.30. Right? Which is the same thing as 257 to 317. Okay. Find the wOBA that is lower than roughly 97.5% of all other wOBAs. And now just to point out what we mean by this, remember that this was 68%, right? 1 standard deviation of the mean, right? Well, if we went 2 standard deviations of the mean, this was 95%. Right? Actually, let's put that back. 95% is in here. Since the curve is symmetric, that means that this right here is 2.5%, and this right here is 2.5%. So we want to find this value, the value that's lower than 97.5% of all other wOBAs. Well, that's the mean minus 2 times the standard deviation. And that's going to equal 227. Okay, that's your answer, 227. Note that we didn't necessarily need z-scores, but you could notice that 227 corresponds to z equals -2. right? And that shouldn't surprise you because we subtracted 2 standard deviations from the mean to get 227.